The crystalline throne room of the Jathiri Empire fell silent as the human delegation approached. Queen Velshara, whose chitinous form had weathered 3 centuries of conquest, sat motionless upon her seat of living stone. Her compound eyes tracked the 2 figures, walking the luminescent pathway toward her. A young woman with determined steps and a man whose casual stride belied the tension crackling through the air. Lisa glanced sideways at James, noting how relaxed he appeared despite the hundreds of armed guards lining the walls. She'd worked as Earth's diplomatic attaché for 2 years, but this mission felt different. The Jathiri had never agreed to negotiations before. They simply took what they wanted. "Your Majesty," Lisa began, executing the formal bow she'd practiced countless times. "We come representing the Terran Coalition to discuss the recent—" The Queen's translator device crackled to life. But Velshara's attention wasn't on Lisa. Her massive head tilted, focusing entirely on the man standing slightly behind the diplomat. "You?" The Queen's voice resonated through the chamber, each word carrying an edge that made several guards shift nervously. "State your designation." James stepped forward, his weathered face neutral. James Chen, formerly captain of the TSS Defiant. The reaction was instantaneous. Queen Velshara rose from her throne, her 6 limbs trembling. A ripple passed through the assembled Jathiri court. Warriors touched their weapons reflexively. Advisors whispered urgently, and the Queen herself seemed to shrink despite her towering presence. "The ghost of the Keltar Nebula," she whispered, her translator barely capturing the words. "The breaker of Hive Fleet Salmon. The one who held the Crimson Line." Lisa's eyes widened. She'd known James had military experience, but he'd been so quiet during their 3-week journey to the Jathiri homeworld. He'd spent most of his time reading and drinking terrible synthetic coffee, never mentioning his past. "That was a long time ago, Your Majesty," James said softly. "I'm retired now." "Retired?" Velshara descended from her throne, each step deliberate. "The stories say you destroyed 17 warships with a damaged cruiser and 4 fighters. That you held off an entire invasion fleet for 6 days with nothing but debris fields and audacity. That when your ship's life support failed, you vented atmosphere to create thrust and rammed the enemy flagship." James shrugged. The reports were exaggerated. It was only 14 ships, and the ramming was more of a controlled collision. A strange sound emerged from the Queen's translator. Laughter, Lisa realized with shock. The terrifying monarch of the Jathiri Empire was laughing. "Humans," Velshara said, settling back onto her throne. "Your species should not exist. Your worlds are fragile, your body's weak, your lifespan's brief. Yet you fight as though you have nothing to lose and everything to prove." "We fight because we must," James replied. "Same as anyone." "No," the Queen's voice hardened. "Not the same. When the Kolvar swarm consumed the Peltis homeworld, they surrendered after 3 days. When the Kron faced extinction, they negotiated servitude. But humans?" She leaned forward. "You made a defensive line through an asteroid field, turned every rock into a weapon, and held for 6 days on stubbornness alone. You sent a message across the galaxy that day, Captain Chen. You said that humanity would rather die fighting in the void than live on their knees." Lisa found her voice. "Your Majesty, we came here today not to relive past conflicts, but to prevent future ones. The border disputes in the outer reaches will cease," Velshara interrupted. "Immediately!" The throne room erupted in surprised chittering. Several advisors surged forward, but the Queen silenced them with a raised claw. "But Your Majesty," one advisor protested, "we have superior numbers, superior technology, superior everything except will," Velshara said. "I have studied the humans extensively since the Crimson Line. Do you know what I learned? They are the only species that creates entertainment about their own apocalypses. They write songs about dying with honor. They have a saying, 'The only easy day was yesterday.' They don't just accept hardship, they romanticize it." She turned her full attention back to James. "Tell me, Captain, if I were to reject these peace terms, if I were to order my fleets to attack Earth itself, what would your people do?" James met her gaze without flinching. "Every human from child to elder would fight. We'd turn our cities into fortresses, our farms into supply depots, our schools into tactical centers. We'd lose billions and we'd never stop, because we'd know that somewhere someone would remember, someone would carry on. We're stubborn that way." "Yes," Velshara said quietly. "You are." She made a gesture and a holographic document materialized. "These are the new borders. Your colony worlds will be recognized. The trade routes will be shared. There will be peace. Lisa could hardly believe what she was hearing. Your Majesty, this is incredibly generous. It is survival, the Queen corrected. The Jathiri Empire has lasted 3,000 years because we know when to conquer and when to coexist. Humans are not worth the cost. She looked at James again. You would lose, Captain. Eventually our numbers would overwhelm you. But the price would break us, and I am not fool enough to shatter my empire trying to subdue a species that views extinction as merely another challenge to overcome. As they left the throne room an hour later, treaty signed and witnesses assembled, Lisa finally spoke. You could have told me. James smiled slightly. Would you have believed the stories? Probably not, she paused. Were they really exaggerated? Yes, James said. Then after a moment, it was actually 16 ships, and the ramming was definitely intentional. Behind them, in her crystalline palace, Queen Velshara watched the humans depart and allowed herself a moment of relief. She had faced many enemies in her long reign, but none had frightened her quite like the species that made a virtue of refusing to surrender. The humans, she decided, were best kept as allies.